beautiful oily rag car there. 185 brake horsepower in this MGC. Yes, it's got to be a big tick for the Vauxhall Viva 1300 SL, the HC shape of Viva. Today on Car Traction, on this chilly morning, we are at this great little breakfast classic car meet that I'm sure many of you will recognise as the Hopley House breakfast classic car meet. Now, a couple of weeks ago I went to a similar breakfast car meet, which was the Combermere Cars and Caffeine at Combermere, and you guys really liked how I discussed how would any of the classic cars there be daily drivable. So today we'll do something similar, but today we will discuss what makes a classic car suitable for like a young first classic car owner. So what cars here in this beautiful little lineup of 50s British economy saloons, which of these cars would be suitable for like a cheap, affordable first classic car for someone young like me who's enthusiastic and wants to get into something like this. And I think first of all, this is absolutely perfect. This is a great little Austin A35. This is exactly the sort of car that I would personally drive this as a first car or a first classic car, but I think many people who are enthusiastic about these old cars will agree. And of course it has got pretty much everything that you need for a first classic car. We need things like reliability. These of course have got the A-series BMC engine, plenty of parts around. I'm reliably informed they're quite a reliable engine. Dad's had a few of these over the years. Nice and easy to repair, nice and simple of course. There's relatively good bonnet access, engine access in these Austin A35s. It's got 4 seats. Nice manual, quite a small car, so like nice and light steering probably, so this is exactly the sort of car that I would recommend for a first classic car owner. And yeah, I would certainly bomb around that, rock up to 6th form or something, and that, yeah, super cool. Also, another thing to note about this car that does make it very handy for a young classic car owner is it is not in immaculate condition. Now, this is obviously no offence to the owner, but this car, I want to say it's an older resto. It looks like the paint that's on it has been on it a while, which is really nice. The chrome's beautifully patinated, but I think as a first classic car, you don't want anything too mint. I think you want something that you can bring out when the roads are a bit salty on these chilly mornings for these breakfast car meets. So I think actually, in a first classic car, you may also want to look for something obviously not rotten, but something that you won't be afraid to take out in the rain and stuff. I mean, potentially, I'm sure you could daily drive a car like this, which would be super cool. I would certainly consider daily driving an Austin A35, especially this Austin A35. It's in beautiful condition. Wonder if an Austin A35 is a good bird puller. Might have to try that out one day. Now, Dad, today I'm discussing what makes a classic car suitable for like a young classic car owner. So what is your opinion on my verdict on the Austin A35?
The A35, it's a fine choice as a first classic car.
So what sort of things do you think you need in like a first classic car, like reliability, stuff like that?
Something that you can work on and something you can get the parts for, because there's nothing worse than having a failure to proceed and not being able to get the parts. So suss out where you're going to buy the parts from before you even go and buy a car. That would be my advice. And go to a car boot and buy some old Whitworth spanners. Buy some old spanners at the car boot sale.
Very handy.
Yes, for just a few pounds you can fully equip your workshop with all the rusty old tools that you need. Don't bother Halfords.
We've got experience with that.
We have.
There's something rolling in now, is it? Hillman Imp? Yes, it is. Yeah, this is the first time this has been out in 2024, this Hillman Imp. Very fruity sounding engine, of course rear mounted in those. Just beyond the beautiful little Austin A35, which is a tick on the first classic car list, is a very cute little Ford Popular. This is a 103E, and now this is an interesting one. I'm going to have to discuss this in depth. So let's have a look at the engine first. This is an 1172 side valve engine, which was an engine used in many cars, many side valve Fords with this engine. And do you think these are an easy engine to understand?
They're not too bad, fairly easy to get at. The valves are a bit tricky because being side valve, the valves are down the side of the engine obviously. Now on the pop they're not too bad to get at, But on the little Ford van, the E83W like we had,
oh yeah, 'cause it's quite an upright.
Well, the engine was offset to one side, so consequently the engine is set over to the passenger side, and it's very, very difficult
I
to
don't
get
remember
the valves. Yeah, because it's like such a short, snubby nose.
Yeah.
So the engine was sort of right back and set off to the passenger side, so it made it made it much harder to work on. So these are easier to work on.
I guess the good thing about these is, you know, this bonnet will all lift up and then you can get to everything.
Yeah, and if you undo the screws at that end and that end, you can lift the whole bonnet.
Got a hot rod then.
And then you can lift the whole bonnet off. So it makes it.
So do you think this is a yes on the suitable first classic car?
Possibly, as long as you're not doing long distance.
Yeah. People would have driven these day in, day out in the 50s.
They would have done, but with the best will in the world. And side valve engines aren't perhaps as resilient. The bottom end isn't perhaps as resilient as an A series. So I'd always go for an A series, whether it's a Morris Minor or an A35 or an A40. Let's get a vote for the old A40. That would be
You don't see many of those around at all.
No.
Yeah, the thing with this is you can see in the interior, you know, there's a line where it says 30. Now that is the sort of speed that the car is most happiest at. Most of these cars, the 50s, you know, this is basically a pre-war design of car, sort of transferred into the post-war era of the 50s. These cars are only really happy at about 30 miles per hour. Once you go anywhere sort of north of 40, you are starting to rev it a bit. So for someone who lives close to everywhere they would need to go, yes, that would be a very suitable first classic car. But for someone who maybe lives in the middle of the nowhere, maybe next to a motorway or something, I would not recommend a Ford Popular. Of course, it doesn't have to be a daily drive. That's not what we're talking about in this video. We're talking about a weekend car, so we want something that's a bit interesting and fun at the weekends. He's just shut his door, doesn't he? Yeah, while it could be possible, I think something like just a little bit new. Of course, this is post-war technology. That is pretty much pre-war technology. For a first classic car, and for someone who wants something convenient, I would probably recommend the little Austin over the Ford Pop. But if anyone agrees or disagrees, let me know in the comments below what you think about this topic. Oh, now this is a car I haven't seen before, a cheese grater grill, Morris Minor MM, in fantastic condition. Beautiful oily rag car there. Very early. We in fact used to have one like that, split screen, the cheese grater grill on the front. That's great, I love the look of that. Very wide tyres as well, that's exactly how I'd have one of those. Oh, the pattern on that is glorious. Yeah, super cool that. That's a car I've never seen before. Yeah, that is super cool. Looks straight out of a barn, doesn't it? Great barn find look. Yeah, look at the size of those tyres. I really like the look of that. Super cool car there. Off he goes. Just beyond the wonderful little Ford Popular is yet another Austin A35. Now this one has a bit of an interesting twist. Now normally the A35s will have a 948cc A-series engine, but this one actually has a 1098cc. This guy keeps wandering out everywhere. Hello. He came from the little Moggy Minor we saw earlier. We will definitely be having a look at that later. But back onto the suitable first classic car theme. I think this Austin A35 is a big tick for me. As I said, it's got a bit of an interesting modification. It's got a 1098 A-series engine, which is the size out of the later Morris Minor 1000, which, to be honest, would make this car a lot more usable. It would cruise a lot faster. The engine would be a lot more unstressed, as it's a bit more of a powerful engine. I want to say the 1098 is like 67 brake horsepower, something like that maybe. And in quite a little car like this, it would be quite a nippy little car, to be honest. So for that reason, I'd say it is a tick on the suitable first classic car list, just because that engine does make it a little bit more usable maybe, although the little A-series, slightly smaller capacity, is still very good. That dog's in there now, going on his adventures. But yeah, even though that one is a little bit smaller, a little bit slower, still very usable, but I'd say this one is maybe more usable. This one is in absolutely immaculate condition. But yeah, the 1098 was a very common engine in all of the Morris Minor 1000s, so I'm sure you can get many parts. Nice and easy to maintain. Just buy some old with spanners like we recommended earlier. And also it's got a handy sun visor for those summer motoring days. But yeah, do you guys agree? A tick for this 1098cc engined Austin A35. Next is this great Volkswagen camper bay window. Now this is a beautifully restored example. The owner bought this one probably at the end of last year. He uses it to go to many events such as Alton Park and of course the Hopley House breakfast car meet. Now this is an interesting one. I'm inclined to say no for a first classic, just because a key aspect of a first classic is going to be price, to be honest, I think, and these VWs are very desirable now. You might be able to find like a little Austin A35, maybe, I don't know, 2.5, 3, maybe a bit less, but these VWs are very iconic, and of course that does mean that they could be quite expensive for a first classic car owner. The other thing I have to say as well is it's quite big, isn't it? These sort of things are nice and easy to manoeuvre. You can see loads out of the bigger window at the back of these A35s. And yeah, they're quite easy to drive, but it's quite big. I don't know what the visibility is like. I've never been in one of these actually, so while I can't give you a sort of comprehensive opinion sort of thing on this VW, I'm inclined to say this is probably a no on the first classic car list, just because it is a bit big and maybe not quite as usable as you'd hope from a first classic car. That dog is very excitable, isn't he? But yeah, let me know in the comments what you think regarding this wonderful VW camper over here. Superb condition. Well, let's have a look at this superb Morris Minor now. This has got the cheese grate grille and the split window. You're getting nostalgic, Dad, about our old MM? This was in blue. Oh, is it Series 2?
It's got an A series.
Oh, okay.
The early Series 2s have got the A series, but still have the cheese grater grille. And then they went to the grill with this horizontal slats a bit later.
I see, super cool, isn't it? Is this a barn find maybe? You were talking to the owner?
Yeah, he's had it 20 odd years, but it was
wow.
like one previous owner it was.
I wonder what the mileage is then. Let's have a little look. I mean, it might not be correct, it says 7,000, but I don't know actually. I'm not sure. It could be 107, it could be 50 and someone's just wound it back, but it looks like it's kind of similar to our old Angler, isn't it? Mechanically immaculate, yeah. But the condition on the outside is beautiful, isn't it? Yeah, this is exactly how I'd have one. The paint is just so nice on it. I presume, is it original, do you think? And we've got these wonderful banded tyres as well, very wide. Make the steering a bit heavier, but it's worth it because that just looks super cool on those. Got quite a chunky SU carburettor on this one as well. I like the look of that. This is exactly the sort of car I'd own and exactly how I'd have it. Got a couple of modern seats in there, maybe for a bit of additional comfort. You can see the earlier design of the Morris Minor, but the later cars would have had the big speedo in the middle, as this one's just got the little one there, and no tacho. I wonder if the later ones have the tacho. And of course you can see the little line where it says 30. That's where this car is most economical at. While it is something that I would absolutely love to own, I'm not exactly sure whether. Actually, I think that could be a suitable first classic for someone. The condition is absolutely wonderful. Yeah, I'm sure you could use that pretty much on a daily basis. I would be quite happy driving that every day. Yeah, I can overhear Dad talking about me. But I think actually this one's probably a yes on the daily drive list. It's in really nice condition, while the untrained eye may say it looks sort of scruffy. It's in great oily rag condition, and I would absolutely love to drive something like that. I'd drive every day, to be honest, if I had something like that, but I think that would make a suitable first classic. Let me know in the comments if you agree or disagree. Peeking round this corner is our Mark 1 MX-5. Dad is not in anything old, but Mum, of course, as always, has brought along the Mark 1 California pop-up headlights, of course, being a Mark 1, and a California, beautiful shade of yellow, and one of 250. Now this is a bit of an interesting one. We haven't seen a car this sort of late. This is 1995, this car, on our little list we're doing today of suitable first classics. Now, it's a modern classic, isn't it? Let's face it, so let's just get that sort of sorted already. But could a 17-year-old or 18-year-old insure a Mazda MX-5? I'm not exactly sure. It's something, to be honest, I'm quite interested in, because I would absolutely love to own a Mark 1 MX-5 as my first, or at least second car. I think they're superb sports cars, having owned one, or having it out. Parents obviously owned this one for a couple of years now. It was a bit of a barn find at first, but it's in superb condition. This one has never been welded, but I think if you could afford to insure, obviously, a twin cam 115 or something brake horsepower sports car at 17 or 18, which I'm not exactly sure insurance for first drivers is absolutely mad, but if you could, and I wish I could as well, because I would love to drive something like this, I'd say yeah, you could even daily drive something like this. It's basically a modern car in its technology. It's got the beautiful pop-up headlights, so it would fire up every morning. Let's just say you won't have to get out a starting handle, and you won't have to, like in our little standard 8, you won't have to get out under the bonnet and pour some fuel into the carb and then keep your foot planted on the accelerator with the accelerator pump trying to desperately prime it with fuel into the carb. This sort of thing is very, very reliable. This car is, I think we've changed the cam belt once, but apart from that, it's been super, super reliable. But yeah, if you could afford to insure a car like this, I would say definitely that would be a great and very, very interesting and cool first oldish interesting car to drive. The next car to debate whether it is suitable for young classic car ownership is the Triumph 2000 Estate Mark II. Now this is a tough one actually. Do you think this would be a suitable first classic car? It's certainly a practical classic, let's say. It's got quite a reliable engine. Triumph churned out so many of these great 2-litre straight 6 engines, and it's super, super practical. I've got a huge boot, great sort of space in the 4 seats. These Triumph 2000s were very, very advanced for their time. Something I notice about these whenever I see them, it's the same with the Dolomites. The instrument panel is arced around the driver so you can see everything. It's very, very good visibility in a car like this. They're really sort of technologically advanced, these Triumph 2000s, for the sort of early 70s that they're around. Of course, the Mark I back on the Mark II Estate. No, Mark II Estate is actually quite rare. But do we think this would be suitable for a 17 or 18 year old? I feel like it's a bit of a left field choice. I feel like people would perhaps want something a bit more sporty, like the MX-5 or something, for a first or second interesting car. But I'd drive around in something like that. It's a super, super cool shape. And if I could afford to insure a 2-litre straight 6, which maybe isn't feasible as the first car ever, I would certainly consider that as a first classic car choice. I'm not exactly sure what the prices of Triumph 2000s are. I hope they're fairly affordable for people. There seems to be plenty of them around on the show scene. If anyone has any history with these, or of course has any comments on the young classic car ownership topic we're discussing today, then give us a little type in the comments below. Next up here is this Hillman Imp now. This is a 1970s car, so I want to say it would be fairly reliable. Of course, rear-engined, which, to be honest, when Dad was talking about things like easy to access and stuff like easy to repair, I feel like the Imp is not really suitable for that. I think it was an engine that was developed from like a fire engine pumping water, like the engine that pumped the water or something like that, but I feel like you need to know a lot about Imps and their specific engines to work on something like this, so that is the only reason I'd probably say no to this as a first classic car. But while I do say that, it is of course possible you could daily drive or feasibly own like any old car really, but I probably wouldn't recommend a Hillman Imp just because the engine is quite obscure. I don't know what parts are like. There's a fair few of these things around. It's a nice period advertising there, but I'm inclined to say no to the Hillman Imp I can't really recommend it for a first classic car. But if you're very enthusiastic about your rear-engine cars, then I'm sure you could still do it. I'm sure you could battle the inconveniences of this obscure engine in the back here, and I'm sure you really could drive something like that. And what a cool car to drive around in that would be. I'm just saying it might be a little bit mechanically confusing for a 17 or 18 year old. I really, really do love the look of this. Great Morris Minor. It's a very rare car being this early, and just that paint is fantastic. It's a real treat to see that on a car we've never seen before. Yeah, the condition of that is just wonderful. It's super, super solid underneath though. Yeah, I love that. But continuing with the discussion today, now, do we think a Pontiac Firebird is a good car for a 17-year-old. I'm inclined to say no, personally. It's got an automatic gearbox, which is probably nice and easy to live with, but let's face it, it's got a huge V8 up front, probably like, I don't know, 4, 5, maybe 5 litres or more. How are you going to insure a 5-litre V8 at 17 for your first or second car? Realistically, it's a massive car. It's probably not very easy to park as well. While it would be a good motorway cruiser, I just don't think it's a very, very suitable car for a 17-year-old. Some good parking there. Wow, that's a close proximity with no parking sensors on the back there. I'm sure you could if you were made of money. I'm sure you could insure a huge V8 as a 17-year-old, but let's be realistic, guys. You know, this is not a first car, is it? But super, super cool. And, you know, I'm sure you could do it. You could save up for a very, very long time, and then you could own something like that. How cool would that be? Hiding round this corner is a Austin 1100. Now, this is a car I've seen quite a few times before, so I won't go into too much depth about it. I say that this is probably another 4-minute clip coming up. It's an 1100. They also have the 1300. It's a transversely mounted A-series engine in these, and these cars, I gotta say, this is perfect for a young classic car. And it's got, of course, the hydroelastic, as it's called, suspension, which is super comfortable. Very, very common engine. These cars were very, very common in the likes of the 70s and 80s, and while there's not too many of them around, I'm sure there must be plenty of parts for this. It's a very early car, this. It's 1964, which is quite early in the production of the Austin 1100, the 1300, the 816 range. But yeah, look at the visibility. Let's have a look around the back. You know, 4 seats, front wheel drive, 4-speed gearbox, and everything's nice and light. The steering's nice and light, gear change easy. You know, this is an easy car to drive, isn't it? I'd say this pretty much epitomises the ideal young classic car that is sort of suitable for a 17 or 18-year-old now. Hopefully this wouldn't be too crazy an insurance, a 1.1 litre engine. It's quite low mileage, this car, 39,000 miles, which, you know, might complicate things a little bit. I don't know if that would see an increase in the insurance. This car is currently for sale for $3,750, and to be honest, it doesn't seem that bad, to be honest. 39,000 genuine miles. You know, for a first car, that's quite rare, actually. You don't see many of these earlier ones, and one in this condition, quite low mileage, you know. I can't help thinking that $3,750 isn't too bad, but let me know what you think in the comments. But yeah, I'd certainly recommend a car like this for a 17 or 18-year-old looking to get into classic cars, especially classic British cars like this wonderful Austin 1100. On the end here is a BMW Z4. This is a straight 6 engined car. Have a look on the side. 2.3 litre straight 6 in this one, and I think we can all agree this is not a feasible car for a 17 or 18-year-old. You know, I've been informed that BMW seems to have, insurance companies don't seem to like insuring BMWs. You know, they seem to be a bit of a sort of sporty brand. That dog's having fun, isn't he? Spaniels have so much energy, don't they? But I think I've learnt that BMWs do seem to be quite a lot to insure, especially for a young car. It's a sporty car, isn't it? 6-cylinder engine. That's not going to be cheap, so cost, this is probably still going to be quite an expensive car to buy. So, you know, all of these things sort of add up. While it is a very, very cool car, I think these are good looking cars, these Z4s. It's not, I wouldn't really recommend this to a 17-year-old, you know. But I do really, really like the look of these. I think these will be a future classic. I like the sort of look around the back. You've got like a little ducktail spoiler as well. I think these are good looking cars, these. It's a manual gearbox, 6-speed manual, and matched up to that wonderful straight 6, I'm sure. I'm sure that makes a very, very entertaining sports car. Maybe just not for a 17-year-old. Now these are a couple of interesting cars rolling in now. What are these? Just behind the manoeuvring Skoda is a gorgeous Series 1 E-Type. That is a superb looking car, that. Wow, beautiful classic British sports car, a bit of a supercar maybe. That is beautiful. And a Wolseley Special. That's very, very cool. Nice to see a bit of pre-war goodness here. We do love the older cars here on Car Traction. And the Vauxhall Viva HC, now continuing with the theme, that must be a nice and reliable, you know, usable car, and I think that would be very, very suitable for a 17 or 18 year old. I think that'd be quite a cool thing to bomb around in personally. Yes, it's got to be a big tick for the Vauxhall Viva 1300 SL, the HC shape of Viva. Yeah, I think a 17 or 18 year old would look pretty cool in one of those. Well, it's great to see a pre-war car here today, and what a pre-war car it is. This is a great looking car. This is a Wolseley Hornet chassis, but it has an Alvis 1270 engine in, and it is supercharged. I thought I did hear the distinctive whine on the way in. You've got some very, very cool twin SU carbs with some very nice trumpets covered by these air filters there. Nice and warm engine there. I really like the look of that. This is a bit of a hill climb special car by the looks of it. That's very, very cool. Nice Brooklands aero screens. Very, very nice inside. This is a recently rebuilt car. There's an MGC there. Very, very nice. But yeah, I absolutely adore the look of this Wolseley. Nice louvers on the bonnet as well. It's a nice wide bonnet, you know. It's a chunky looking car, this. Let's just get out of the way. This isn't a suitable daily or almost daily driver classic car for a 17 or 18 year old, but it is fantastic nonetheless. I always love the burnt look, the soot behind the exhaust. Don't get many pre-war cars here normally, do we? It's just good to see. Very, very cool switches on there as well. I like the look of the dials as well. Sprung steering wheel, quick release filler cap. Yeah, great looking pre-war special there. And the E-Type here as well. This is a glorious car. This is probably no on the suitable classic car list for young drivers, but this is an interesting one. This is a Series 1.5. It's got the 4.2 engine in it. The Series 1 would have had the 3.8 XK Jaguar straight silks, but being a 4.2 engine in this one, obviously enlarged, it's a Series 1.5 Jaguar E-Type, but it basically looks the same as the Series 1 with these lovely sort of earlier design. Yes, stunning, stunning. Classic British sports car there. I'm sure those are absolutely amazing to drive. C-Reds, that's about 66, I want to say, 65 or 66. Yeah, what a wonderful looking pair of cars there. Just peeking round this corner is a Fiat Panda, but not any Fiat Panda. This is a Fiat Panda 100 HP, which is basically the sporty variant of the great looking Fiat Panda. I do like the look of these earlier ones, and to be honest, I'd say this is a super cool little car for a first driver. Now, I do know there is actually a fellow YouTuber in our area who is a couple of years older than me, and his first car actually is a Fiat Panda 100 HP. I think it is Daniel Drives, his YouTube channel. Go and check him out. It does make some interesting videos, including many on his wonderful Panda 100 HP. These look like super fun little cars to own. And they're just a really interesting shape, I think, this slightly older generation of Fiat Panda. And yeah, that'd be a really, really cool little car to bomb around in as a young driver. There's been a sudden burst of arrivals here, the last of which has been this wonderful MGC here. Not an MGB GT, this is an MGC. This has got the C-Series BMC engine as opposed to the 1.8B Series engine. And of course we have the A-Series engines in some of the little Austins over there. So it's a 3-litre engine up front. And that is a wonderful looking car, isn't it? Really love the look of the MGCs. It's got the nice early sprung steering wheel as well. In immaculate condition, this car. Yeah, absolutely adore that. Sorry for the voice cut, guys. Yeah, that's an immaculate condition. Now, do we think a 17-year-old could insure a 3-litre straight 6 MGC?
Yeah, for about 10 grand.
It's got a very special motor.
I was looking at the Downton badges on it.
Yeah,
it's Daniel Richmond's.
It's a Downton-tuned head, triple carbs.
Ooh, very cool.
Yeah, this was a common here, wasn't it, the other weekend?
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
It's very, very cool.
185 brake horsepower at the wheels.
185 brake, wow.
It's amazing. It's real fun to drive. It's huge fun to drive because it's a live back axle. So, you know, you
so come out of a roundabout bar at the front, isn't it?
Yeah, torsion bars. Yeah. You have to, when you come out of a roundabout, you have to make sure it's straight in line.
I'll bet. Yeah, I'll bet.
This MGC seems to be a little bit more than it's originally cracked look to be. There are a couple of little badges for Downton, and that was a period tuning company. And yeah, 185 brake horsepower in this MGC. Very, very subtle but high performance sports car there. I like cars that are sort of a bit of sort of sleeper. It does look sporty, but not quite as sporty as 185 brake horsepower. That is really, really cool. Absolutely love that. And yeah, I'd probably set it back about 10 grand to insure it as a 17-year-old, but certainly as a maybe second or third classic, if you can afford a car as magnificent as this, I would absolutely love to own something like this wonderful MGC. The Lotus 7 here, I love the look of the rims on that. Those are like Cortina Mark 1 Lotus rims. Has that got like a Lotus Cortina engine or something, do you think? Yeah, it's got the Cortina rims, you know. Yes. I can see the DNA. Yeah, those rims do look very, very cool on that. That's a great looking little car. I really love the look of this little Lotus 7. It's so refreshing to see an actual original old one. This is from 1964. Most of the time you just see like the Caterham replicas. You see like replicas from the 80s, 90s, 2000s, etc. But it's great to see an original with the original Lotus twin cam engine from 1964. It's great to see an original, actual, genuine Lotus 7 on these superb wheels. These are exactly like the Cortina Lotus wheels. It looks really, really sharp on those. Got the quick release steering wheel as well to help you get out. Very, very cool sort of bare metal transmission tunnel. Yeah, I really love the look of that. It's so refreshing to see an actual original one. These are super, super rare. Got a very cool pair of twin Weber carburetors matched up to that gorgeous twin cam engine just under the louvers, with some very, very cool air filters as well. Yeah, it's so nice to see an original one. And I do like the look of the number plate on the front of the grille. You see that a lot with Lotuses. Like Lotus Lines, they always have the original letters across the number plate, which does look very, very cool. Very wide tyres, as I said before. Yeah, it's so, so nice to see an original one. Let's get a bit of a closer look at this wonderfully original Vauxhall Viva HC in a very, very cool shade of red, I must add. Also, interesting design of petrol filler cap. That one might confuse a young classic car owner, but to be honest, I think this is a pretty secure choice. I'm sure it's a relatively affordable car, and yeah, I'm sure that would be quite a fun thing to run around in as a 17 or 18 year old. I feel like it would be quite cool as well. Would it be as much of a bird puller as the Austin A35? Let me know in the comments below. First MGB of the day here as well. This has got the chrome sill, which is an interesting mod. This is a rubber bumper, quite clearly in absolutely immaculate condition, I must add. And to be honest, I'd hope you'd be able to insure a 1.8 litre engine as a 17-year-old first driver, because an MGB GT is something that, to be honest, I'm quite tempted with, as well as the MX-5. But yeah, I'd love to run an MGB GT similar to this, preferably probably an earlier car. It's just a personal preference for me, but hopefully you could insure the 1.8 litre B series in this. I know it is a bit of a sports car, so it might cost you a bit, but I feel like hopefully that'll be a bit of a feasible option in terms of insurance cost. You know, it's always going to be mad, even if you drive something like this Fiat Punto. But you know, what an interesting choice that'd be. I'd love to sort of run around in a classic British sports car. It's super cool looking cars. I think the MGB GTs, you know, they're so common. The engine's nice and easy to get to. This is an overdrive, which might add a couple of little complications. I'd probably go for a non-overdrive car, perhaps a slightly earlier one then, as a result of that. But they're super simple cars, or at least hopefully if you buy a good one. And yeah, there's so many around, they're always going to be affordable. You can probably get a relatively nice one for, what, $3.5 or so. So yeah, I would consider an MGB a great option for a sort of second car or a weekend, you know, jolly classic British sports car. But I'd hope that you could daily drive something like this, or at least insure it maybe on classic insurance as a second car for a 17 or 18 year old. I'd hope so. But you know, maybe we'll find out one day. twin cam engine of the wonderful Lotus 7 is on show. It's interesting how much it's mounted towards the front of the car, because the sort of cam cover seems to go underneath the bonnet. I'm not exactly sure what access is like in a car like this. I'd expect it to be mounted quite far back for weight distribution, but yeah, the sort of cam cover just ends about there. So yeah, that's interesting. Looks like plenty of space towards the back of it though. Of course, super light aluminium body. Very, very cool. And I love the look of these carbs as well. Super cool Webers. Yeah, it's an interesting car mechanically, this Lotus 7. You've got the engine mounted really, really far forwards. Then we've got this tiny battery here. Now, would this be a 12 volt? 12 volt probably, wouldn't it?
Probably.
Yeah, this is a 60, isn't it? So it'd be 12 volt. That's a tiny battery. Yeah, and you can see it's mounted so far forward, and that's where the gearbox starts there, and that's where I'd sort of expect the engine to be normal in a car like this, quite far back. But it's an interesting one to look at under the bonnet, this one. Quick look at this Spartan in the corner here. Now, I know me and Dad were just discussing this, and there's this Cortina based. We think it's obviously Ford based, there's plenty of Ford parts going on. But it's actually quite interesting how, you know, it's a big car, you know, there's a lot of body behind that rear wheel, and you know, for a two-seater, you know, we were just having a look at this earlier. You can't really see inside past the sliding windows. For a two-seater, this roof goes back a very, very long way. There's a big sort of flat area there, and yeah, it's interesting. I haven't really had a close look at one of these Spartan kit cars before, but yeah, the proportions are a bit interesting, because I'd usually expect, you know, where the roof starts to slope down just behind the window, sort of there, and then the rest of the back would just sort of tail off. But this one's sort of got a window, big blank space, and a little window, which is like, it's interesting. I've never seen it before. It's interesting having a look at these like custom built cars, you know. I've never really had a look at them, one of them before, that closely. But yeah, the roof especially is quite a strange shape. It sort of goes down and up. Louvers in the bonnet as well. Dad mentioned the triple wipers, which is very, very rare. Well, I think now most of the cars are on there. We're at least preparing to leave, so I think I'll wrap up the video fairly soon. I hope you enjoyed this little bit of a sort of spin on this great turnout of the Hopley House breakfast car meet, discussing, you know, what cars are suitable for a first classic car, such as this wonderful little Austin A35. So please do let me know in the comments what your opinion on the subject is. If you like any of the cars in this video, make sure to drop a comment below as well. Check out the channel homepage for past videos. There's about 200 videos probably by now on the channel. And come back next Sunday. Make sure to subscribe for another automotive upload. Thanks for watching.